Hiya, so this is like a little fascinating little musical toy that I've been playing around with, or it's fascinating to me anyway, which is really based on a very simple idea. So what I like about a lot of Baroque music is the way that it's based on really strong bass lines, and the kind of harmony is built up from the bass line in a way that's quite different from, you know, what modern functional harmony, where the chord's kind of in the middle and then the bass line happens underneath. The chord is the thing, and then we base everything off that. And that's kind of how modern jazz harmony works. But in Baroque harmony, and also classical as well, actually, you start with the bass and then you build everything on top of that. So I've been reading an interesting book called Music in the Galant Style, which I'll put a link to below, which kind of talks in greater depth about this sort of thing. But I think one of the simplest things that anybody who's interested in getting into composition and improvisation in the 18th century, the first thing that they would probably learn would be something called the rule of octaves, which is a way of harmonising a scale, really, in an interesting and beautiful way, and starts to get the ball rolling in terms of how to realise bass parts into harmony, into accompaniment parts, because often music was just written with the bass line and the melody line, and it was up to the harpsichordist or even a lutenist to sort of turn this into actual accompaniment, into actual music. And the other thing which was it was used for is something called partimenti, which is a way of a sort of practice or a series of kind of bass lines that would need to be turned into music, and people would start with simple bass lines and get more and more complicated. And there's some great resources on the web if you want to get into this, but this is just the very baby steps, and I'm really enjoying playing around with just this. So we're going to take a scale in G major, which is going to be this. That'll be our bass line. And then, so the thing that might take a little while for people who are used to using chord symbols and so on, most modern jazz and pop musicians, is that the Baroque musicians, and actually Renaissance and Baroque and also classical musicians, referred to harmony not in terms of chordal names such as C major, G major and so on, but they would name the bass note and then they would say what diatonic intervals were built above it. So for example, if we're talking about a G major chord in root position, we would call that a 5/3 chord, for example, or perhaps more properly 5/3 chord like that, right? And then, you know, you've got choices about what you double out of that chord, or, you know, and so on. And these terms are still used, by the way, in sort of classical theory today. A 6/3 chord, on the other hand, would be something with a 5, with a 3 and a 6 top of it. So it would be that. And we understand these today to be first inversion chords, first inversion triads, but that's not how they were understood in the 18th century. They would just seem to be that interval above the bass. So if we kind of harmonise the scale in a very sort of naive way, just using 5/3 chords, we get this kind of effect, which is not very satisfactory for that style of music, because we get like lots of parallel fifths, sorry, especially if you play the wrong notes, it's not satisfactory, and so on, and you know, it's just kind of sounds a bit ugly really to the sensibilities of that time. That's particularly obnoxious, which is, you know, the way it was done back then. Sorry, it was the way that it wasn't done back then. It was absolutely not the way it was done. So in order to make it a bit easier, the idea was, I think, really to limit the use of 5/3 chords, because obviously if you're not using a 5/3 chord, then you have less of a chance of getting those horrible clunky consecutive fifths in the part writing. So what you do is you put a 5/3 chord on 1 and you put a 5/3 chord on 5, but on everything else, so in this case G and D, right? On everything else you put a 6/3 chord, especially on things that are moving up by a semitone. So for example, if we're going from that to that, for example, or for this one to this one, we would use a 6/3 going to a, but on everything basically that wasn't a G or a D. So this is the simplest scheme that works really for this particular style of harmony. And that'll be a 6/3 as well. This would be a 6/3 too, actually. or a 6-3, 2. And it's a B, a 5-3, and a 6-3, 6-3, and then 1 again. Coming down, it sounds a little bit not so cool. So what they tend to do is to raise the 6 on that chord. So you can get a nice secondary dominant as we'd understand today going into D, but that's not how they understood it, by the way. And then we keep going down, and then it's quite nice if you use that chord, which is actually our first, interesting dissonance, and that is going to be a 6-4-2 chord, which is in fact what we'd understand today to be in this position a C 6-4-2 chord in the key of G would be understood to be a third inversion dominant 7th. But we're just thinking the intervals, we're not thinking of the chords. And that's a very satisfying resolution to that chord. Of course, it's a inverted perfect cadence, but we are not thinking it that way, we're just thinking of the bass line. So, this chord, which I think is called 4-2 maybe? 4-2, going to 6-3, going to 6-3 again, but we can add a 5 in there as well, and then 5-3. So that's rather nice. And already we're starting to get this kind of nice Handelian kind of sound to it. Going up, we can also make it a little bit more complicated. That's quite nice to do that. Or even... so you can experiment around with that and try different melodies. I mean, obviously when we first start doing it, we've got this thing going on in tenths. Obviously always sounds good on the guitar, and probably the piano as well, definitely on the piano. And then, so really, as long as you've got that going on, we could have 6 going on. And you can also sort of experiment with taking these 6 chords and doing 7-6 resolutions, for example. You can go, let's just give that a go. So normally that would be straight to 6th. Yeah, it's quite nice. We can raise the 6 again on that chord. And then so you've got all kinds of lovely resolutions that you can do. You can pull through, and you can do suspensions like this. So for example, going from that, for example, all of which is very natural and feels great to do right away. The minor scale is really nice. It's this. So similar logic: 5-3, 6-3. It's good to do different fingerings. 6-3 again. We could do a 6 chord, a 6-5-3. It's quite rich. Or maybe let's just keep it at that. But yeah, maybe not do the leap up to the F sharp. So that's quite nice. Coming down is beautiful, because when we go up we use the melodic minor scale, we use the 6 and the 7 as in the major, but when we come down, so we've got this like E6-3 and a F sharp 6-3 going to a G5-3, but when we come down we use F natural, and then I think it's really nice actually if you just use the E flat and then go down to D. As in the major, we use that chord. Then but if we do raise a 6th, we get that an augmented sixth going to that chord. Nice suspension at the end. So that's really a nice thing to play around with. I absolutely love this sort of thing. You can use chromatic bass lines as well. So any chromatic note that you might use is going to be a 6/3 as well. So in fact, it's usually a 6/3 with a minor 3 and a what's that, a minor 6? I get confused. But basically, what we think of as a first inversion major chord. So it'd be something like this. Quite nice. Let's go to a. Yeah, we'll use 5/3s on these two. Maybe that's nice and minor if we come down actually. Starting to get into sort of Purcell's kind of harmony. It's a little bit more modern if you use the augmented sixth. Yeah, so this kind of thing, and I can play around with this for hours, and I love it. I think it's so beautiful, and you can start to make up simple pieces this way. And then the idea is to get really kind of good at this and to be able to play melodies. I mean, I'm not very good at this yet, but the idea is to be able to play. Once you can improvise freely around that, then maybe you're ready to start looking at some of the simpler partimenti bases and start to realise those. Different rules. I mean, for example, if you're leaping around, like most jazz musicians know about the cycle of fourths, so they know about this kind of thing, you know, in the key of G. So you use 5/3 chords. So then we voice lead them so they don't get consecutives, right? So it'd be, let's see. Yeah, that's not. So you could go like that's not sounding amazingly classical, but I mean you can jump from chord to chord in sort of root position. It's not all 5/3. It's not necessarily that you have to kind of use the rules of octaves then. So for example, that kind of thing, right? So I mean if we're actually moving the bass note, let me see. So you can start to make up things that have a sort of combination of stepwise movement and leaping in the bass. Anyway, these are real baby steps. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of go through. I've been having to think about how this might relate to jazz harmonies, specifically kind of bassline oriented standards like the kinds that Jobim and Cole Porter write. And I'm wondering whether there's a way of looking at this from a more jazz perspective, or at least a more 20th century perspective. But yeah, I hope you found that interesting. It might give you a desire to check some of these ideas out online. As I say, I'll stick some resources below for you to have a look at. Thanks for watching. Bye.